Welcome to episode 45. Thank you guys so much for being here this evening, this afternoon, this morning with me to listen to another episode of the Michael Lab Show. Big thank you to everyone who supported the last episode and liked, comment, subscribe, showed all the love. That helps a lot. Make sure I take my headphones out. I was testing something new. I was trying to see if I can listen to music while I edit a podcast, thinking that would help me somehow, but I don't think it did. But, I hope everyone had a good New Year's. I hope everyone ended 2019 the way they wanted it to go down. I hope everybody has a clear idea for the future. I hope everybody understands what they want and they have goals and a map to obtain what they want in the future. I think that's really important when we go into this new decade. I've never been someone who's been big into New Year's. I've never been somebody who's been big into New Year's resolutions, especially. Not that I don't support them, but more or less I don't understand them. I think if I have something that I want to accomplish or something that I want to do, I'm just going to start it that day, start it that evening, start it that second. I feel like I have to start making progress immediately. So I've never been somebody who has been all about that. But I do want to, in this episode, I do want to talk about the future, 2020, and obtaining a clear focus, a clear set of guidelines, clear set of goals that you want to accomplish, and putting all the bullshit out the window and not having to worry about mindless things that don't matter, things that that are coming in and out of your life every day, and you feel like they're slowly holding you back. But yeah, so we're going into a new decade, and this is the time of the year where you look around and there's a lot of positive energy. There's, especially January, there's a lot of hustle and bustle. There's a lot of people who are trying to look for new ways to better themselves, whether it's their diet, whether it's cleaning up their act at work, so they can get pay raises, so they can get promotions, so they can get a good bonus next year. There's just a lot of positive energy flowing around. There's a lot of people acting right now. There's a lot of people who are trying to completely change the personality of who they are, thinking that that's just going to stick for the rest of the year. And I just want to talk real quick about that, about navigating yourself through the world that's going on right now. It's really important to realize January and February, March, beginning of the year is a time where there's just an influx of actors and actresses going on all around you every day, every second of the day. Whether it be going to the gym or whether it be going out to the grocery store or whether it just be walking down the street. You see a lot of people who are happier. They have smiles on their faces and knowing that this is, they want to change. They're trying to change, but fundamentally the groundwork hasn't been set. Fundamentally the perspective change hasn't been set. So you're going to see within the next 6 months that all these positive and high energy people are going to slowly fall back into their old ways. They're going to order the large pizza. They're going to sit at home when they should be at the gym. They're going to, see someone walking and they won't hold the door for them. They're going to drive recklessly again on the road because, whatever it is. And it's a time of the year where the people who are actually going to make the change and the people who have been doing it since the beginning of 2019 and it's just another day in the life for them, you're most vulnerable at this time. You're most vulnerable at this time. You're most vulnerable to fall down in that group of people, to fall down in that part of society. And I just want to hop on here today and say and let you know that everything that you've ever wanted, it's not going to be accomplished if you don't have a clear plan of what you want. There's really good books out there that I know that help me a lot with that, with understanding how to get somewhere, but more importantly, what I exactly want. My attention to detail, or my attention to my ultimate goal, is the first and most important thing. Because most of the time, people have these ideas of wanting to achieve something, but what they want to achieve isn't clear. Arnold Schwarzenegger says it best. He says, when you train, as you're training, you got to think about the size of the muscle you want. You got to think about the muscles actually moving and how they're going to look in 6 months. It's the same thing with doing a podcast. I got to sit here and I got to think about myself recording episode 100. I got to think of myself at 10,000 subscribers. I got to think of myself at 100,000 views as I'm doing this. Not that I'm neglecting this moment right here, but it's like driving a car. You can drive a car as much as you want, but if you don't have a destination, you're never going to arrive anywhere. You're just going to keep going, and it's something that is so important as we bring in the new decade. As we bring in this new decade, there's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of people driving on the road without a destination, but thinking and knowing that what they're doing is the right thing, but they're going to end up falling off the road, getting in an accident or something. And I don't want anybody out there to be vulnerable at this time of the year. So the way to combat that, to deal with the chaos and the jungle out there, just everybody flying around acting, is to have that goal, have it crystallized, have it, exactly what you want. And then every day you can start doing minor things to achieve that goal. I was thinking about this just this last week. I was thinking about the decade. New Year's is always a special time. Family comes around, family leaves, and then you're left there with just you and yourself and the immediate people around you again, all over again. But I was thinking, this is a new decade. And from 2000 to 2010 was a decade. I was 4 to 14 or whatever I was. But yeah, 4 to 14. Nothing really impressive, nothing really cool. Just didn't really think about it. 2010 to 2020, I was 14 to 23, and that was I started trying to question life. I started, not my life. I mean, there was times when yes, but I started questioning about what do I want out of my life, what makes me happy, what makes me get up every day, what do I actually, what gets me off, what excites me every day, and I really had to start thinking about that more and more and more. And then 2020 came around, and now this decade right here, and I know there's people I went to school with, and there's people all around me who may not be thinking like this, or maybe they did think about it, but they threw it to the back of their brain again to just forget about it. It's 2020. By 2030, I'm going to be 33, 34 years old. This next decade is not just a decade. And it's not just a New Year's resolution. It's a new life resolution. It's a new decade resolution. What do I want at the end of this decade? I want to be happily married a few years in. I want to possibly have a kid. I want to have a very fulfilling career as a personal trainer, possibly something else on the side. I want to be a business owner. I want to continue to do this podcast for the next 10 years. I want to be at 1,000 episodes of the podcast. And I want to have starting a family. I want to have a house. I don't want to be renting. I want a lot of these things. So then you have these overarching ideas of what you want for the next decade. Because like I said, this is 2010 or 2020 to 2030, and all the nonsense and all the BS going on, whether it be like the politics or whether it be like family bickerings or whether it be like nonsense drama at work or at school, at whatever you are. I'm not talking about that shit. Like that's stuff that is so easy to throw behind you and not worry about it again. I'm talking about, what do you want for yourself? So take down those goals, those huge decade goals, those goals that are going to make a lifetime of happiness. Now, what do you want? How do you obtain those? And then you can start breaking it down. Okay, if I want to have a house by 2030, maybe a little bit before that, well, how much do I need to start saving now to put it in my bank account so I can have it grow at a certain amount of time? Should I start investing into the stock market? Should I, start taking a bank account and letting it, open a CD account so it can grow money? Should I get a second job? Should I go back to school? Because what I'm getting paid right now, I've topped out at what I'm ever going to make here. Do I have to go back to school so I can get a new job? What is the investment on that? How much does it cost to go to school? Is it a good return on my investment? I want to raise a family, but I don't feel like I know a lot. Should I start trying to obtain more information about the world so I can, when I raise kids, I could be a more roundabout father, so I can be a more intelligent person, so I can be a more fair person, so I can learn more perspectives. How do I do that? Oh, maybe I should read a few books. Maybe I should travel the world a little bit more. Do I want to get married? Maybe I should know this person a little bit better. Maybe we should go do things that we've never done before. And all these could be, sub goals. And all these can be goals that you set for a year, but clear and crystallized goals. Nothing that you just, like I said, nothing that you just throw out in the open because the wind will come along and crush it, And then once you have those, you need to develop little paths on how to get there. What am I going to do every day? Should I write in a notebook? Should I get up every day at 6 o'clock so it becomes routine? Should I go to bed every night at 9 p.m. so my body is good at getting up at 9, or going to bed at 9, waking up at 6, and I'm healthier? Should I start taking vitamins? Should I start losing weight? Should I start building muscle at the gym? Should I try to make new friends? Should I try to get at least 2 new good friends this decade? Sorry about that. Smacked my lip on the mic. Or this year, so I could become a more social animal, so I can feel more comfortable in situations where there's a lot of people around. It's thoughts like this that I think are very important, and I think that we neglect as we go into the new year. We have these very fun goals, these very inspiring goals. I'm not going to curse anymore. What do I give up this year? I'm going to give up 30 pounds. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give up 30 pounds this year. Acting like it's like that's the end of the road. It's like, no, I'm going to maintain a healthy lifestyle, And I know for me, I am super guilty about that. I will lose weight and then put weight back on, lose weight, put weight back on. I have it under control a little bit, but at the end of the day, is that what I want? No, that's not what I want. That's not what I want at all. So I've always been somebody who's looked at New Year's resolutions and I thought they were crazy and stupid and I didn't understand them. But I'm at the point now where, it's like I respect them. But I understand that everybody's making them, and I don't want you to get caught up in those people who made them and are going to fail them, because you're not going to be that person, right? You're going to be the person who reaches them. I remember when I was younger, every time New Year's would come around, I had this attitude that I didn't want a New Year's resolution. I was too cool for that, I didn't want to tell people about my New Year's, what I wanted to accomplish. I've never been that. I never tell anybody about what I actually want besides like me and Taylor. And I think a lot of that is like a defense mechanism. I think if I don't tell people, I don't ever fail, or at least I'm not ridiculed by other people. I don't feel the embarrassment of failure. So I think it's like a defense mechanism. I'm protecting myself. I'm protecting my own emotional state by keeping everything I want within, which I don't think is healthy. I know it's not healthy. I think it's good to express what you want out in the public. Not like to everybody, but to a few people, because it holds you accountable. It's the same reason why you get a personal trainer. You could tell yourself all day that you're going to go to the gym, but if you tell me that you're going to go to the gym, then I can text, hey man, where you at? Or are we coming? And then you're held accountable for your actions, and you show up to the gym, you work out. And I think that's really important to express your goals to people that you find close to you. But so just keep those things in mind as the New Year's is going on. You're gonna run into a lot of people who have these ideas, but they're not gonna keep them on. They're not gonna keep them in their scope, and I don't want them to drag you down. I don't want you to be dragged down this year. I want this year to be a completely elevating decade for you. I want this decade to be the decade where you just change your entire fucking life. Everything for you just gets better and better and better. That's what I want. And I truly believe with the people that listen to this, all of us can do that together. I want to push the gas hard on the podcast. There's so many things I want to do with it. As you guys saw, we have ads on the podcast now, which I know some people didn't like that, but you got to understand from my perspective, if I want to grow the podcast, I have to have a revenue so I can invest back into the podcast. And although I have revenue from outside of the podcast, it doesn't systematically make sense to take that money that I make outside of the podcast and put it into the podcast if everything outside of my life is not really paid for. Like I gotta pay for insurance and my car and school. Like I just dropped a $1,300 deposit into my summer class or my winter class for school. And I could have easily dropped that into 6 months worth of rent for a podcast setup, but it wouldn't make sense. So with the ads is a big step for the podcast side. It's a big step for me. Now, when I put out content, there's going to be money coming back in, which is beautiful because it's going to allow me to increase the quality of our equipment, maybe get out of my bedroom so I can actually have a lot of guests on, get multiple camera angles, because I know we have some not complaints, but criticism about that, which I'm totally about. Like, there's different things I can do with the camera. Add a different camera, maybe get away from my closet door so you guys know that this is in a closet because it might be distracting at times. But maybe get full grown cactuses instead of these just like little tiny ones. But yeah, man, it's always an exciting time of the year, and it's the time of the year where I think a lot of change happens, and I am kind of off that wave where I think New Year's resolutions are stupid. I don't think they're stupid. I think for a lot of people they help a lot of people. I think they do. And more than anything, if the New Year's comes around, you at least have that idea of what you want in your head, dude, you're halfway there. That's a win. I don't think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people just kind of go on with their lives in this mindless situation where, they don't really know exactly what they want, and then they just float around and get chewed up and spit out by different people in life and different times in their life and different moments that they just can't get over because they don't have a direction. They don't have a goal that they actually want to accomplish. But yeah, that's 2020. And I really want you guys to get after it, set those decade goals that would turn into lifetime goals, make them crazy, make them intense. Like if I was a kid, marriage, house, career, like all within this decade, I mean, that's intense, 33 years old, but it's kind of my personality. Everything I do is a little more intense than I think most people would say, or than most people's lives are. But I find it peaceful. I find it stressful if I'm not doing anything. Definitely not good at just sitting there and waiting for the sun to go back down so I can go back to bed. And that scares the hell out of me. Got a lot of tricks up my sleeve. Just like that, because I'm a nerd. I want to talk about something real quick. I've been big into listening to this podcast by this gentleman named Lex Friedman. I know you guys probably don't know who he is. Some of you guys might. But Lex Friedman I'm just looking up some information on my phone right now just so I can get the right information. So Lex Friedman is this is a YouTuber, but I don't think he's a professor at MIT, but he does a lot of talks at MIT for artificial intelligence, deep thinking. He does a lot of stuff like that in that realm where he talks about the future of artificial intelligence, what to expect, what not to expect. And he has a lot of these people on his podcast that are brilliant humans, mathematical wizards, theoretical physicists, neuroscientists, computer scientists, philosophers. That's one thing I never, and I by the way, I finished this book, Neurochives by Steve Silverman, about autism. Brilliant book, absolutely loved it. I'm starting a book right now called The Intelligence Trap, I think it's called. It's about this guy. He's a science author, so he writes about science, and he wrote up this book to talk about the shortcomings of being super intelligent, where being so smart that you make mistakes that are super blatantly obvious. But it's a great book. He talks a lot about confirmation bias. He brings up a lot of examples like Nikola Tesla, Thomas Edison, Albert Einstein. He just talks about the IQ test, the development of the IQ test, general intelligence, the educational system, how this I think there was a Harvard professor. He did this study where he took people in his class and he asked them about their major, and then he asked them, "Can you describe your major? In what is your major actually going to accomplish? What is it made up of? Generally, a very easy perspective on it." And they were all able to do it. Then he asked them to write up like a paragraph or like a page of what it actually is, what it actually consists of. Couldn't really do it. And these are the people who are in school to be a cognitive neuroscience, and they couldn't really describe what the neuroscience major is all about. And then he asked them to talk about like what is the study of business about, and they were able to write a whole page about it. And it was really interesting because he talked about how this girl commented on the study, like she was also, I think, she was a psychologist at Cal Berkeley, I think, and she was talking about how the way the school system was worked now, we're not really taught to be educated. We're taught to obtain information, remember information, let it sink in, and then get rid of it as quickly as possible. So everything else in our life that's not in a major, we learn because we need it. We don't need it to, we're not graded on it. We let it sink in. It becomes part of our DNA. It sinks into our skin and we learn about it. But it's a really interesting book, and I've just started it, and I should be done with it in probably about a week. It's a shorter book. Then I'm probably going to read a couple of nonfiction books. I'm thinking Into the Wild by John Krakauer, and probably maybe Ape House or No Logo by Naomi Klein, which is, I think it's like a book, the book with counterpoints to capitalism and the benefits of it, which I think I'm pro-cap. I mean, I like capitalism. I like the idea of it. I mean, that's why I can do a podcast, get paid for it, because only the cream of the crop rise to the top. We can get to that point. But I also think it's really good to read books that are not your view, because the book I'm reading, Intelligence Trap, is also talking about that. Like, you get so caught up in your viewpoint, whether it be like a Republican or a Democrat. Like, if you're a Democrat, you get so caught up in your Democratic views that even when they start becoming false, you get so caught up into it, and then it becomes like a shot at your body, like from a gun, if your view is slightly attacked and the attack was completely valid and you were wrong, that you would start agreeing with the wrong thing. Intelligent people do that. Very smart people do that. And it's talking about why we do that. It's like the fear of being wrong is stronger than anything. It's the strongest fear we have. We don't like being outcasted. We don't like the possibility that we're open up for crucifixion, that we're wrong. People hate that. But I started that book, and it's a really interesting book. But I've been listening to this podcast by this gentleman who I got to look it up real quick. It was one of the better podcasts I've listened to in a long, long, long time. He was on a few podcasts, and then he was on Joe Rogan. Obviously, that's where I heard him. Heard him most on Joe Rogan. What's it called? There he goes. Simulation. Nick Bostrom. That's the gentleman's name. His name is Nick Bostrom, and he is a philosopher at the University of Oxford, known for his work on existential risk, the anthropic principle, human enhancement ethics, and superintelligence risk, and the reversal test. But he has this argument that I'm going to try my best to explain. And there's different levels to the simulation argument. The basis of it is the simulation hypothesis of simulation theory proposes that all of reality, including the Earth and the universe, is in fact an artificial simulation, most likely a computer simulation. So I don't know if you guys are into stuff like that. I don't know if you guys listen to anything. I don't know if you guys are into that. It's not conspiracy stuff, because it is backed by not science, but it's backed by the lack of proven false. I'm not crazy about it, but I do enjoy it. I do listen to a lot of stuff about it because I like to just hear different sides of the coin on everything. And I'm going to try my best to orchestrate it without sounding like a complete imbecile. But the simulation argument is this theory that basically we are in a video game, so that everything around us is hooked up to a machine. All of our brains are hooked up to a simulation, a video game, just like the same way when you put in a CD player and you play a video game and you die, but you come back to life. That's why a lot of faiths believe in, like Buddhism, reincarnation. You come back to life. But he proposes these three methods, three hypotheses. And I the first two I could wrap my head around. The third one I don't even remember, so I'm going to say something about the other first two. So the first one is he presents this argument for pro simulation, that our world is a simulation, and it is every the probability of, so us humans, we've been around for, I don't know, a couple 100,000 years, and our technology has never been as high as it is now. So with that being said, if you take the past 2,000 years and then you break that down to like the last 100 years, even the last 100 years, our technology has been on exponential growth, like just shot up, like going like when you're jumping out of the water, you swim horizontally and you have to eventually come up, and then when you're coming up, you're shooting vertical. It's been growing so much the past 10 years, it's gone crazy. The iPhone wasn't around 20 years ago, and now we have Alexa talking to us in our living room or in our kitchen. It's out there buying shit off of Amazon for us. And people, anyways, we're like making hearts and stuff. And this theory presents that the world that we live in right now has gotten it's advanced so quickly, so fast, that what is the end game? What is this leading to? Why is our technology advancing as quick as it is? If it's going to keep going at this exponential growth, there's two options. Either extinction of human race, or the second option is we hit this point where our world, our reality as we know it, becomes a different world. It becomes a different reality. It becomes a simulation. We create a world that we no longer recognize. You wake up from a dream, and you wake up and you shake your head like, whoa, where was I? They have VR glasses you can put on your face, and you literally escape a world. They have float tanks where you get in there, and all your sensories are shut off, and you escape the world. We have Siri and Apple, or Siri and Alexa, that knows us. They have our alarm. We have Fitbits that we put on our wrist. We have this technology that's becoming something else. It's becoming powerful. We threaten each other instead of war now with sending humans to other countries. We threaten nuclear bombs. So we have this weird dichotomy of end of the world scenario or development of a new world scenario. So if you look at the probability of that, the probability that our world, the one that we're experiencing right now, is the base reality. Because it has to be a base reality. The probability that this is the base reality and not just a simulation, that there hasn't been people like that before who have hit that point and have blasted off into a simulation and then created our world, the probability that what we're living right now is a base level of reality is so low. It's so low. So then it brings you to, what if this is a simulation? What if everything we're living is not as we know it? Or You Living in a Computer Situation by Nick Bostrom. I'm just going to read a little bit of it, and he explains it a lot better. This paper argues that at least one of the following propositions is true. 1. The human species is very likely to go extinct before reaching a post-human stage. That every time we get close to it, we can't get to it. It's so much greater than us that we end our race. And you can see it now. As technology is increasing, the threats of nuclear bombs are increasing. There's like a threshold that we're not supposed to be in as a humankind. And I wish there was someone next to me I could bounce ideas off of. But that cycle just keeps on going and keeps on going and keeps on going and keeps on going. Second, any post-human civilization is extremely unlikely to run a significant number of simulations of the evolutional history. That if we do, that's hard to explain. We are almost certainly living in a computer simulation. This is 3. We're almost certainly living in a computer simulation. It follows that the belief that there is a significant chance that we will one day become posthumans who will ancestor simulations is false unless we are currently living in a situation. A number of the consequences of this result are also discussed. This is from here's just a few of the keynotes. You guys can look this up online. It's really interesting. Simulation hypothesis. It could be the case that the vast majority of minds like ours do not belong to the original race, but rather to people simulated by the advanced descendants of an original race. It is then possible to argue that if this were the case, we would be irrational to think that we are likely among the simulated minds rather than among the original biological ones. Like, biologically, there's a lot of people with this skin, with this brain. But there's some people being created. You know, they're cloning animals. They're making cells. They're making hearts. We're almost like done with like natural evolution. Like we're speeding up evolution so quick. We're making robots that learn us within a day. They learn our sleep cycles. We plug it in, and we're creating like these no longer like natural biology humans and machines. We're making these learned machines that learn us, they could predict us. They could predict me better than I could predict myself. They know that on a night that I roll around and I'm not going to bed at the same time and I don't hit REM as much as I wanted to, they know, well, you're probably going to be groggy the next day. You're probably not going to be as happy. You might be in a bad mood, you know, stuff like that. And so they could predict our movements. Therefore, if we don't think that we are currently living in a computer simulation, we are not entitled to believe that we will have descendants who will run lots of simulations on the forebears. I don't know. It's a really interesting theory. I would say towards the end of 2018, I started just really thinking hard about it because I grew up Roman Catholic. So I grew up Catholic, and I grew up with the belief that whatever you do on this planet, if you do a good job, you go to Jesus, right? And then things started falling apart. I started to question, like, Virgin Mary. That, like, blew my mind. Like, the idea that Mary could have a kid without having sex. And once she has a kid, she's, you know, we pray to her. But Joseph, what was Joseph? So that's the first thing that really started confusing me, that no one really had an answer for that. And then I just really didn't believe in heaven, per se. I believed in bliss. I think there's, on the planet that we live in, there's moments that feel like heaven, and I think that's the heaven that was misinterpreted. I think that's heaven. And I didn't like the idea that everything I was doing was to get to heaven, because it made me feel like I was running through my life with my eyes shut, just trying to do good things. I felt like I wasn't taking responsibility for my faults because I could just pray, my sins would be gone. So once that started happening, then I started questioning everything around me. You know, the decisions I make. Do I have control of my own thoughts? You know, do I have control of my future? You know, do I have free will? And I've still to this day, I never picked a side. I never picked left or right or left. I've never chosen a side. But what I have started to do more and more and more lately is I've started to let my mind go and be interpreted where I think, where I find fascinating. I'm letting thoughts come into my head. I'm not closing my brain down to anything, because anything is possible. And I think that's kind of what I think is important about going into this new decade. Just keep your mind sharp. Keep it thinking. Keep it open. Listen to people that you normally would never listen to. Stop taking such dramatic stances on anything because you're wrong. There's some part about it that you're wrong on, and you just sound like an idiot. Listen to people. People are beautiful. People have ideas that you don't know, that you've never even thought of. And I think it's very important to embrace that. Tie up knots where you think are untied, relationships that you think you broke, that you destroyed, that you hurt. I think it's important to find those relationships and mend them, at least for yourself. Maybe not for the friendship, because maybe there won't be a friendship in the future, but for your own health, I think it's important to really start taking a stance on that. Forgive yourself for the mistakes that you might have made this last decade. Start making a list of things that you actually want and do that, and don't do shit that you don't want. It sounds so commonsensical, but I think a lot of us fall into traps in life where we end up choosing a path that we never wanted. But we're here. We're here now. We didn't want it, but we chose it. So be careful of that. Look out for the traps. Avoid the traps at all cost. Avoid being an asshole to yourself at all cost. Be nice to yourself. Be nice to the people that you believe are good people. Stay level-headed in situations where you feel like you've been like something wrong has been done to you. Just be smart. Think about your choices. Think about where you are, how lucky you are to be where you are, and just keep doing the right thing. It's going to be a good year. You're going to make friendships. You're going to have a great decade. You're going to achieve everything you wanted. When you fall down, just keep moving. Keep moving forward. If you can't get up, fuck it. Who cares? Just keep crawling. You know what I mean? Just keep going forward. If you fail, just don't let it sink in for too long. Just keep a smile on your face. Keep plugging them away. Be honest with yourself. Reach your goals. Forgive people that have hurt you. Apologize to people that you've hurt. And the world will be a better place for you. And I get it. Like, I know I'm young, and I know I may not have the most wide variety of knowledge on things, and maybe I talk out of my neck, and maybe I say things I shouldn't say. Maybe I'm just young and I'm stupid and I haven't lived life as people say, but I've lived my life up to 23. And I know there's plenty of people who are listening to this podcast who are 23 and younger than me, because I know there's not a lot of people from analytics that are over the age of 50. Not many at all. But what I do know is that being good to people will always be good to you. It will always be good to yourself. Forgive yourself. Challenge yourself. Start reading. If you've never read a book, read, man. I know I talk about it all the time, and I don't think I'm bragging about it, but I've never read in my damn life. But I started reading, and I love it. It's so fun to just learn. If you go on YouTube, look up Human Biology College Lecture. The Art of Writing Poetry College Lecture. There's full lectures on education that you can get. If you're in college, don't stop. Drop out only if you know that it's good for you. But don't drop out because it's going to prove to people that you're better than them. Don't do that shit. Take that from me. That's my mistake. I don't regret things, but I do wish I didn't do that at times. But I am very happy I did do it because I wouldn't be in college. I wasn't going to make it through. But yeah, there's a lot of good shit going on in this world. It's going to be a beautiful decade. Don't worry about the things that you can't control. Go out there, be a good citizen. Take care of your mama. Take care of your daddy. Take care of people around you. Take care of yourself. Take care of your kids if you have kids. Look after each other. Remember, it's only you and you at the end of the world. But before you get there, just be good to everybody around you. Guys, thank you so much for watching episode 54. I will catch you in episode 55, I think, on Thursday. Yeah, guys, you guys are amazing. You guys show me so much love, and you guys support me so much. But I'll see you guys later. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful, safe beginning of 2020.